Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall.
105.9 FM.
And AM 630.
WMAL.
8:07 on WMAL. Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson with you. We're talking about the attacks on U.S. embassies in the Middle East or North Africa as well on Tuesday, and then it continued this morning in Yemen. And there's been a lot of talk, though, about the comment that Mitt Romney made the other day. Pleased to be joined now by Byron York, Chief Political Correspondent for the Washington Examiner. So,
hello, Byron.
Mr. Wilson over here, Byron, has a list of questions that would be appropriate to ask this morning. And one of them would be including of whether or not the question was the appropriate timing for Mitt Romney, but there are a whole slew of others that would be more appropriate.
He's apparently going to sit down with George Stephanopoulos today, Romney is. And I bet you $100 that none of my questions are going to be asked.
I don't think so. You know, I have to say, I don't go on a lot about media bias, but the performance at Romney's press conference, it's sort of impromptu press conference he held in Florida yesterday, was one of the more amazing examples of groupthink that I've seen in a while. I mean, every single question except one was, did you make a mistake? Did you do it too early? Did you say the wrong thing? Did you make a mistake? You know, the one question, by the way, was, well, what would you do as president instead, which was a perfectly good question. But I have to say, as I wake up this morning after a whole 36 hours of this, the fixation on Romney as opposed to the incredible problems for the United States that are being revealed in a lot of places around the world, this fixation on the timing of Romney's statement strikes me as amazing.
Well, apparently the president left last night to go campaign. So, and if there were more attacks at the embassy in Yemen today, I mean, is it an appropriate time to go out there, or should we be hunkering down? Because
taking care of business.
There are a lot of American citizens who are in danger across the country, across the world right now.
Well, I think the president would have been perfectly justified in canceling a couple of campaign events to stay in Washington to monitor this situation, especially, by the way, since there are a number of protests planned for tomorrow in the Middle East, which will be basically tonight by our time. And I really am a little nervous about what might happen at various places tomorrow. But even now, we know there are these uprisings, these episodes of real rage against the United States showing up in attacks and protests at U.S. embassies. There are real questions about the security of American diplomats and other American personnel. Aren't those pretty serious about after what happened in Yemen? There's a lot of stuff going on, and here again, this fixation on Romney. Did you make a mistake? Should politics stop at the water's edge, et cetera, is I think missing the bigger part of the story.
And we're, by the way, there's a new development right now being reported by CNN. A suspicious white substance found in a letter sent to the U.S. Embassy in Berlin, Germany. The powder is being tested by hazardous material experts, and there has been a report that someone who handled it got sick.
Yeah, we've just seen that. So I mean, we have an embassy not in the Middle East that I think the consulate has been evacuated there. So I mean, there's just clearly a lot of stuff going on, and I thought the Wall Street Journal was particularly effective this morning, basically saying that Romney's political faux pas was to offend a pundit class that wants to cede the foreign policy debate to Obama without thinking seriously about the trouble for America that is building in the world.
What I don't understand about that is that Mitt Romney is roundly criticized for questioning a statement of apology and appeasement that was issued by the embassy in Egypt. When a statement like that is issued, it is, for all intents and purposes, supposed to be our government speaking, and he criticized that. And yet the president walks away and says, well, no, we disavow that. That was not official policy. That was some underling who was acting on his own. And no questions get acted. Well, how did that happen?
Boy, has that guy been thrown under the bus. I don't know if you've seen, there's a story in Foreign Policy. It's a very good kind of explainer of what happened. And it attributes it all to one single person in the embassy in Cairo, and says he sent the statement to Washington for approval, and Washington said absolutely not, it's got to be changed. And the next word Washington heard was it had already gone out, And they are just, this guy has been thrown under the bus and run over a few times.
Larry Schwartz
already.
is his name. Larry Schwartz
Exactly.
is his
But
name.
isn't it true that generally statements like that get at least vetted at the ambassador level?
Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, the ambassador to Egypt, the U.S. ambassador to Egypt, was in Washington at the time.
Okay.
And if the foreign policy story is correct and complete, the statement was sent to Washington, where it did not receive approval. I want to hear a little more about it, but that's what they say right now.
They're talking with Byron York from the Washington Examiner. Eli Lake from the Daily Beast we had on earlier made a good point, and that is Egypt, where the event took place, where there weren't any deaths there, but they still took over the building, and they took down the American flag and put up an Al-Qaeda-like flag, has not condemned the attacks. Egypt, a once ally of ours, refusing to condemn attacks on Americans inside their country.
Yeah, where has the new president of Egypt been on this? Has not said a word, has not condemned it. Of course, there's no government at all in Libya, basically, to do this. But in Egypt, the government is much more concerned with trying to get the United States to free the blind sheikh than it is in controlling any of these mobs at U.S. embassies, which, here again, I think tomorrow is a nervous day, but we're in a nervous time. It could happen next week or any time after that.
Well, I know we had the Arab Spring, and now you're worried about if we're right now in the midst of an Arab fall, if they were going to have more and more uprisings, for the next couple of weeks.
But think on this Arab Spring stuff. I mean, think about Libya in particular. There were a lot of people who, at the time, the U.S. was essentially overthrowing Gaddafi. There were a lot of people who are saying, who are we allying ourselves with?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who are we? On whose behalf are we fighting? I mean, that was a question there, and I think that there was worry about the exact elements who attacked this consulate and killed the American ambassador.
Yeah, well, good stuff. Listen, good to have you on our show always, Byron. Thanks for joining.
Great to be here, guys. Thanks so much.